Being alone in itself is not a problem. Feeling alone is. And those are two completely different things, which is why you can be surrounded by people and feel more isolated than you have ever felt in your life. This matters because the solution to one is not the solution to the other. Being alone is just a state. You're by yourself, that's it. But feeling alone, isolation, that's an emotional and nervous system state. It's something happening inside you, regardless of what's happening around you. You could be in a crowded room, surrounded by people who care about you, and still feel utterly isolated, like you don't belong, like nobody would understand anyway, so why bother trying? Or you could be painting your house on your own, just you and a brush, and feel completely at peace, completely connected to yourself. The outside circumstances are almost irrelevant. It's what's happening internally that determines whether you're in solitude or isolation. Let me describe what isolation actually feels like, because if you're in it, you need to know that you're not imagining it. Isolation feels like disconnection, like being unseen. It's that specific kind of loneliness where you feel like maybe there's something wrong with you. Like the people around you wouldn't understand anyway, like you're the only one who's been through what you've been through. It's not just sadness, it's a particular nervous system state, stuck, contracted, waiting for rejection. Your body is on high alert for the moment when people realise who you actually are and decide that you don't belong. And here's the part that makes isolation so dangerous. It compounds. The more isolation you feel, the harder it is to reach out. The harder it is to reach out, the more isolated you become. You stay quiet. People don't understand you. You interpret this as confirmation that you don't belong. And now you're stuck in a loop where the belief is creating the very evidence that proves the belief is true. This is where limiting beliefs live. Beliefs like, I'm too much. Nobody gets me. I don't belong here. I'm the only one who feels like this. Isolation doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It gets installed, usually early in your life. Most of the time, isolation comes from early experiences of not being seen, not being safe to be yourself, or being rejected for who you are. Maybe you grew up in a family where your feelings weren't validated. Maybe you learned that being yourself meant being hurt. Maybe you picked up the message that you were too loud, too quiet, too sensitive, too much. Your subconscious learns something very specific from these experiences. If I'm alone, I'm safe. If I'm with others, I might be hurt. So your nervous system starts pushing people away to protect you. Not consciously. You don't decide to isolate. Your nervous system decides for you. Over time, this belief gets reinforced. It becomes a pattern. It becomes the way you move through the world. Now you're carrying a belief that was never yours to carry, a belief that was installed in you, probably before you were old enough to question it. And you're living your entire life as if it's true. Now, let me tell you what solitude actually is, because it's not what isolation looks like. It just sounds similar. Solitude is choosing to be alone with your own company and finding peace in it. It's a nervous system state of calm, safety, and presence. When you're in solitude, you're not running away from anything. You're not hiding. You're choosing something. Solitude is restorative. It's where you hear yourself, where you think clearly, where you can create, rest, or just be without needing anything from anyone else. The difference comes down to this. In isolation, being alone feels like punishment, like abandonment, like proof that something is wrong with you. In solitude, being alone feels like a gift, a space that belongs to you. And here's the thing, solitude is available to you. It's not something only certain people get to experience, it's something that becomes possible when the isolation clears. I'm going to tell you a story because I know what isolation feels like. I spent 22 years living in Dubai, building a life, a real life, a business, a community, people who knew me, people I'd built relationships with over decades. And then I had to leave it all behind. Come home to Scotland, start from zero. No business, no community, no one who knew my story. That was isolation, real, concrete isolation. For a long time, I thought I was the only one who'd been through what I'd been through. I thought my people didn't exist. I thought I was too broken, too damaged, too much of a mess to find anyone who would actually get it. But something shifted for me. I started talking, started being honest about where I was, started sharing my story without editing out the messy parts, the anger, the confusion, the grief, the rebuilding. And suddenly I wasn't alone anymore. People recognised themselves in my story. They reached out. They said, "Me too, I've been there. I know exactly what you mean." And it turns out my people were everywhere. They were just waiting for me to speak first. Here's what I know now that I didn't know then. Isolation lives in the subconscious. It's not a character flaw, it's a belief system about safety, about worthiness, about whether you belong. And here's the important part. You can talk about that belief for years. You can understand it inside and out. You can journal about it, meditate on it, do breath work around it. Understanding helps, but understanding doesn't clear it. The belief is still running the show from underneath. Still pushing people away, still telling you that being alone is safer than being seen. That is where theta healing comes in. It goes directly to the subconscious belief and releases it. Not over months of processing, immediately. Your nervous system shifts, the belief clears, and suddenly the world looks different. Coaching does something different, but equally important. It helps you understand the pattern, reconnect with yourself, and start taking aligned action. It gives you the tools to rebuild your relationship with yourself and with connection. Together, they do something neither does alone. They shift the internal state so completely that your external circumstances change as a result. Once the belief is cleared, solitude becomes available to you. Being alone stops feeling like a punishment. It starts feeling like peace. When isolation shifts, everything shifts. You start hearing yourself again. Your own voice, your own desires, your own truth. You're no longer filtering everything through the question, will they judge me? Will they reject me? Am I too much? You can be alone without it being lonely. Solitude becomes a choice, not a prison. Connection with your actual people becomes possible because you're no longer running or hiding. You're not performing a version of yourself that doesn't exist. You're being the version that does. And here's the thing that surprised me. The loneliness doesn't disappear because you have more friends. It disappears because you finally belong to yourself. When you stop abandoning yourself, other people stop abandoning you too. That's not coincidence. That's just how it works. If isolation is where you are right now, it doesn't have to stay that way. There's a specific mechanism creating it, and there's a specific way to clear it. It's not about forcing yourself to socialise more or trying harder to connect. It's about going underneath to the belief that's running the show and releasing it. I have spaces available for one-to-one coaching and or theta healing right now. So if you are ready to explore how we might work together, if you're ready to release isolation and loneliness and step into solitude, then let's talk. Please book a call. The link will be in the description. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.